Hey viewers, good evening and welcome to another edition of the Renewalism Show. What is renewalism for those of you who are joining in today? And this is a quiz for those of you who are continuing to come onto the show every day. It's very exciting to come back every day because we have a wonderful guest, a new guest every day talking about a new aspect of renewalism. So, what's renewalism? Well, for those of you who are here for the first time, this is a takeoff from the book Renewal, which you see on my side. And the entire objective of having the Renewalism show is to acquaint you with what it takes to renew at the level of one's own body, mind, spirit, one's interactions with others and with the planet, and how we hold the key to changing systems and operating processes which we have created. It is time to look at those processes again. It's time to renew those processes. We might as well do that by design rather than have that forced upon us the way COVID has forced it. In just a few months, we have changed a lot of systems, a lot of the ways that we have been habituated to work and think. And a lot of that has brought about positive effect. The air is cleaner, the water is cleaner, families are together, relationship strengths are being understood. The climate lobby says that this was a dress rehearsal for what the impact of climate change could be. We know how migrant workers are going to be looked at in times of crisis and all of that. And so we are kind of getting prepared for crisis of this nature. But what renewal talks of is getting prepared proactively, getting prepared by design. And so there would be no stress in this changeover as we are experiencing currently. One of the systems in which we are experiencing stress these days is the schooling system. While it's all moved online, teachers were not prepared for it, students were not prepared for it, families didn't have the laptops or the bandwidth or all of that. And while this is a very good idea in principle, there is a great need to prepare oneself. But are we only talking about systems like making school education online, or are we talking about the content of education as well? Would we like to address that? So that's where I'd like to read out a couple of paragraphs from Renewal, because this is one of the habits, one of the systemic renewal practices which your habits can change. Let me just indulge me with a couple of paras. It says modern education is based on corporate needs. For that matter, ever since we settled down as a species, training has been based on the needs of the ruler. Nowadays, it is not symbiotic as it was supposed to be. In the times of the Sumerians, 5,000 years ago, the rulers got the population to build temples, tombs, and pyramids, only to give them the reason to earn money by means other than farming and sales. In the medieval times, masonry became a coveted form of expression, and to date, the Masonic Lodge has remained a fraternity with high society patronage. However, today, when the software is the new spade and nations are democratized, corporations have become the real rulers, but they can't and don't care whether the workforce that has been brainwashed for fulfilling their needs finds work in their organizations or not. There is too little demand, too much supply, and a distributed, fragmented, disconnected governance system. The government doesn't need people to write code the way they needed them to build tombs, and solely for the sake of writing code or building tombs. And the government requires efficient processing. Corporations, on their part, need profits, which means the fewer the people, the better it is. Now, in this world where we are headed for automation, where a different kind of skill set is what we need, we're going to welcome the founder of therealeducation.com, Mr. VIKAS Jain, who's dedicated his life to changing this paradigm. Hi, Vikas.
Hi, Sandeep. How are you?
Fantastic. Great to have you on the show, and great to touch upon this very, very sensitive subject in a sense, because we are so entrenched into the mechanism of Western education. We sort of forgotten what the Gurukul education was, or any other methodology for that matter. And what my first question to you would be is, what is the real education by you, and how can we start incorporating that into our schools, into our lives?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, Sandeep. That when we talk about that, what is real education? We commonly hear these two words. One is uneducated and one is educated, and most of us are driven by these two words. The purpose of education system, as defined by the government, is to make people educated and tag some people as uneducated. The interesting thing
Right.
is, in today's world, or probably in any life, nobody is purely educated because it's an ongoing thing. You can't define that a process which is completed. When something is ongoing, how can somebody be tagged as educated? Secondly,
Right.
when education is about acquiring some set of skills, knowledge, information, whatever we call it, how can there be someone who is uneducated? Because uneducated means who does not know anything, who does not have any skills.
Anything.
So the bare bottom foundation on which this system is designed, the school or college system, is that making uneducated people educated. That basic thought process is flawed in my sense. Actually, the real education means a superset of all the terms that we get to hear. So in some scenario, when we are talking about skills like driving skills or swimming skills, we call them skills. In some other scenario, when we are talking about remembering some poem or something, we call it knowledge or the way we remember it. In some other scenario, for example, take the example of a dancer or a somebody who is a bodybuilding enthusiast. Now they are not
Right.
neither having that skill or the knowledge, they develop themselves. So real education is superset of all the human development that is possible. And once we take it to that level, I think the real understanding of real education starts getting clearer. Because what has happened when we talked about real education, though government or the bigger organization wanted to implement the real education, but there were some constraints, and those constraints are true till today. And the
Mm-hmm.
system was designed, which we see as school or college system, but that system itself is not aligned with the real process of that real education. So a lot of effort needs to be done, and it's a great effort on your side when you have brought out this book on renewal, that this is definitely one of the system and one of the most critical system that need immediate renewal. Yeah.
Awesome. So, thank you so much for that point about the book, because the book is divided into three sections. One is about renewing oneself. One is about our relationships with the planet and environment and others. And the third takes up various things. We had the chief of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences a couple of days ago. We're talking about the medical system and about telecommuting and stuff like that. Where it comes to education, I'm seeing 2 points emerging here. One is what you called the superset of education being real education, and the second being what we have somehow come into the Western framework of schools and colleges, where we've got a curriculum. How do we integrate these two without, I mean, seamlessly? That's the question, really. How do we do it seamlessly? Because otherwise, you have the NSDC for skill development, and you have polytechnics for vocational training, but they don't seem to serve the purpose, and we're not seeing able to see people at par, and there's a lot of disparity consequently. So, what do we
Yes.
do?
Yes, it's a very interesting observation that when we talk about school and college system, I always try to take the macro view first. And if you look at the macro view, frankly, with your corporate experience and while working with so many organizations till today, you will agree less than 10% careers are having one-to-one mapping with the qualification that is required. So a doctor
Oh,
might
yes.
need a MBBS or an MD, or a chartered accountant might need that kind of degree, or a lawyer might need. So there are less than 10%. But if we talk about 30 to 40% of the industry, they are just looking for some degree. So their typical job requirement would have that you should have certain skills and one should be a graduate. So technically, we are not
Right.
asking for anything. There is some societal requirement that one should be graduate and then only they are called educated, right? And for 50% of the industry, all the entrepreneurs, people who are having their shops and businesses, even biggest industrialists in the world, they actually don't even care about it. So they don't care whether they have that piece of paper that's called degree or the graduation. So all the efforts are focused on that 10% of the industry. What about the 90%? Right now also, the 90% industry is having some skill set. Talking about the event industry. Now, with if say there are 1 lakh people in event industry, obviously the number would be much higher, but I'm just quoting a number. How many of them are having a master's in events or a bachelor's in events? How many graphic
I don't.
designers are having master's in event or a bachelor's in event? None. But don't they have the skill? Yes, they have the skill. So
Right.
when we talk about education research, there are two streams of education. One is formal and one is informal. I think we are focusing only on the formal education part and trying to convert informal into formal. But what I believe that informal as a system is a system, and one should accept those people also. Right now, what is happening that these people are not getting acceptance from the society. So what we usually hear this term that there is some industrialist who has got so much success in the life, and people we call these people as uneducated, which is weird that they have acquired so much knowledge about industry and so many skills, and they are called uneducated. Same is true with Sachin Tendulkar, right? If
Yeah.
we look at the Wikipedia or any other common biography website, and if there is a section called education of that person, or for that matter education of Sachin Tendulkar, people will say that okay, he's a school dropout. But it's not relevant. What is relevant is that how come he acquired the skill of cricket. And if say
Right.
today there is a university of cricket, he is always already the what you call this, professor emeritus there, right? So a person who
True.
is
Quite
having
true.
that kind of skill, and from the education word perspective, we are calling him as a school dropout or a college dropout, which is obviously not the way. So for the future of work, we definitely need to broaden the horizon, because if education systems, and when I'm saying education means school and college education system, does not choose to change, they will become stale soon. So nobody will be cared about, and it has started happening. So the point here is that
It's
for our future generation, we don't want that conflict mindset, that there is one set of thought process which says that school and college is essential, and they don't find it relevant in the industry. So they, to keep it relevant, I think it's a time that school and college policymakers need to change that mindset. I think that would be a good starting point for the future.
Yes, I have a very interesting comment by Minu here, which you see up there. Education should not be merely imparting knowledge or downloading information. It should be practical application, which makes the educated wise. I love the use of that word. But otherwise, we just understanding things by rote, memorizing stuff, and then by luck we moving on various paths. But
Yeah. So
bringing that wisdom in.
I'll add an thought to it. Yeah. So actually, I
Yep.
wrote three books on different aspect of education. The first book was on career, so now it's visible, and then second book on self education, and third book, which is my recent work on real education. When I wrote my first book, which is on career, so I was also very angry about the school and college education system, that why teachers are not changing, why policymakers are not changing. But later I realized that there is no alternative to the system right now which is accepted by masses. So the anger which I
Hmm.
had for the system people, that teachers should behave differently, actually gone away, because they don't have the option, because there are various constraints. When I delivered those faculty development program, frankly speaking, say I don't know how to drive a fast car, or say a rocket, how to like start a rocket, I don't know. Now if tomorrow
Right.
you tell me that you have to teach the same thing to kids, you are a school teacher and you are teaching say 8 class students, and you have to teach that subject for 3 months to these kids. One option I say that no, I cannot do it, which is not the option in today's job market. You have to acquire that skill. Now if I don't have the practical knowledge, what will I do my best? So I'll find out the theory part from the internet and try to deliver it, which is happening with most of the skills. Talking about, for example, the recent example of artificial intelligence, people want to train everybody on artificial intelligence. What happened? You want teachers who have not themselves gone through the artificial intelligence teach it to the kids. So typical curriculum that comes out will be who is the founder of artificial intelligence, when it got invented, because all the theory stuff, because nobody is actually there who can teach the practical stuff. So we end up
Who
doing so.
implements?
uh,
Hmm.
I agree with Minu's statement to some extent that okay, yeah, education should do this. But when I deep dive into it, I got that deeper understanding that why things are not changing, because I realized that there are two pathways in education. And when I worked with leaders, I interviewed them. One is a masses pathways, that we need to educate everyone. Now, if there is this kind of conversation
Hmm.
going on that we need to educate everyone, it's put us into different kind of conversations. The other kind of conversation is mastery pathways, that I want to become a better person, I want to grow my skill. These two are totally different pathways. The education choices made in these two pathways are totally different. For the system that we see is definitely for the masses, hence majority of the people are aware about the masses pathways. And frankly speaking, there is not much growth that can happen through masses pathways. If somebody is actually looking for growth in his or her life, the only option is mastery pathways. Yeah.
So I love that phrase, mastery pathways, and in fact that brings me back to the book because you know what the protagonist of the book, which is Guru Pranachandra, it's all a talk delivered by Guru Pranachandra with the interactions with the audience, which is essentially a family and people that can help relate it to individuals like us. He says that the self education is in a sense the real education. So when you're talking about mastery, you don't expect mastery from a master's program. You expect mastery from educating yourself because that's where you've taken your attention to, and you know you are then doing it theoretically as well as practically, and in a sense getting wise about the subject.
Yes.
So, is there a way of getting mastery with the mask system, or does it have to be, you know, with a coach? Because any mastery is usually with a one-to-one or one to a small group.
Yes.
How do we
It's an
bring it to the
interesting.
mass system?
Yes, it's an interesting question, and I think it's an ongoing research. Frankly, I have a different opinion to it. The different opinion part is that there are some people who even they face all the difficulties in life, they even choose the mastery pathway. But do we have the system for people, though they may be few in numbers, but do we have some system? I talked to so many policymakers and head of education institution, and it come out that people say that these are self-motivated people and they can do anything for themselves, so we don't need to cater to them, we need to focus on masses. What I see here is that
Uh-huh.
even though there is a self-motivated athlete, it does not mean that we should not provide them good stadiums and good coaches. So these people who are
Mm-hmm.
already
Absolutely.
self-motivated, when given and hand-holded properly, can outperform many people. So instead
True.
of just talking about providing mastery to masses, first we should identify those few people who are ready to take that plunge and nurture them differently. And these success stories of few people will definitely inspire the other people, because right now they have this objection in the masses mind that we don't have good teacher, we don't have good institution. But if in their class they see somebody going to the mastery pathway and uh, reaching amazing results, actually it will be very difficult for them to give any doubt or any question that okay, if that person can do it, why can't I? So I think that is one way, because people, everybody want mastery pathway to be available to masses. Still it is an unsolved problem, but The thing which I
Create the
think
infrastructure.
immediately can be solved is to provide the mastery pathway to mastery seeker, and that can be done. That will inspire the other few people. I think that's one
Absolutely.
way
I
to handle
think
it.
that's really well said, because the key is that you have the motivated people, but they don't have the infrastructure to get to be masters. And once the infrastructure is where the policymakers focus upon, the masses would follow. And that's my kind of summary takeaway from what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just
So
going
there
to
is one
come
more.
back to you because I can.
I'll just add one more thing to it, Sandeep. That when we talk
Yeah,
about infrastructure, there is one which is physical infrastructure, and that second thing is the mental infrastructure, the acceptance infrastructure. There are so many people who are child prodigies and become so skilled by themselves or with the help of their parents or whatever, and then they are recognized by some foreign university, and then Indian institution starts commending them or giving them awards. But why can't we have a separate entity within our government to identify this potential? Forget about marks and everything. Why don't they just give a degree to Sachin Tendulkar and such people? That why are we waiting for them to clear some open school exam or something just to get that
right,
naming of that these people are certified or educated? I think the core word which I see here is that for so many years I've studied so many stories, so many innovations and success stories which are happening at the micro level. One college doing something, other college doing something else. There are so many schools and colleges. Key thing which is missing is a real education movement, I would call it. So we have started this real education movement that it's enough of small objectives. I think we need a movement level of initiation where everybody is aware about real education, and then they make the choice, where school and college becomes an option for me. So it's like that nobody forces me to eat pizza or dosa, right? If
right.
so, school and college system is like one kind of cuisine, and it's a good cuisine for some people but not for everyone. You cannot call it that we will not term you as you are properly fed unless you eat pizza. If you are eating dosa, no, we will not accept you. That's that's what is happening right now. So my focus is that let's take the macro view. Let the people choose that which type of education they want. If they are comfortable with school and college, yeah, that is a required infrastructure for few people but not for everyone. So real education movement is a key thing that we are starting at realeducation.com. Yeah.
Awesome. I think you've given a lot of food for viewers who want to really understand how to convert the desired impact into daily actionable steps. Now, if policymakers have to get to understand stuff like this, they just have to be more voices that add to this movement, and all of that
Yeah.
would result in that change. Because as we had Deepak the other day, who's deeply into policy matters, he says that the guy sitting at the other end of making policy is also a person. So it's always a one-to-one thing, and it's always initiated one-to-one. And as we've seen in Shawshank Redemption, you send those letters out, you get to pursue your cause, and it is it manifests. So
Yes.
likewise, changes in policy here could manifest. We do have the direction. We have a very clear idea, and of course, you could pick up this book from Amazon, the paperback, or just head over to renewalism.com, and you could get an e-copy or all the Amazon links. Meanwhile, keep coming back to this page at this time, 9 p.m. every day. We have a new guest every day. Tomorrow we'll be joined by a gentleman from the IT industry, a veteran in IT from Pune. And we are talking about something really interesting: the use of cars, the information highway or the road highway. And that's another systemic choice that we have started to make, not of our own volition, but because of the coronavirus, and seen the results. But how do we develop that information highway to be able to take it on forever and ever? So it's going to be an interesting conversation tomorrow at 9. And while I expect you there, I'd just like to come back to Vikas for any closing remarks for our viewers today, Vikas. It was awesome discussion
Yeah.
today.
Thank you, Sandeep,
Anything,
for the invitation.
anything you'd like
I
to
think my
add?
closing remark be uh, that you are given a life to live free. You can make any choice in life if you choose to use that secret key, which is real education. That secret key has so much potential that you can achieve your dream. It's a way that you use. You can, when I talk to so many leaders, I realize when they talk about simple word learning, which everybody use, in leaders mind it is iceberg, but in usually masses mind it is ice cube. So it is you who need to decide whether you want an iceberg or an ice cube, because outcome will be in proportion to the way that you are learning. Yeah, that will be. And all the best. I'm sure you will get some interesting insight or some interesting information from future program of Sandeep. This is a great initiative. I must say that people are working together to make this planet a better place to live. Yeah. Thank you, Sandeep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, with that, viewers, we see you tomorrow at 9, same page. And for the moment, have a great evening. And thanks so much for being here. Thanks, Vikas. Sign off now.